I would like to first explain to everybody how the scheme works when there is a dispute between two groups or more in relation to projects or properties that have been raised and created out of donations, public funds, grants, etc. What happens in this case is usually people go to court and the court appoints an administrator, somebody like a retired judge, who then mediates between them and more or less becomes the chief manager of the project, arbitrating between these two or three groups. In the Auroville case, because Auroville is such a big project involving people from so many countries, instead of the courts, the government got involved directly. And as a first trial, it took over management only. That was in 1980. And for 8-9 years, there was an administrator here, a retired judge of the High Court, Mr. Nigam, and Auroville was managed under his administration. In the meanwhile, parleys were going on to see if some kind of a agreement can be reached with the Sri Aurobindo Society. But that seems not possible. And finally, the government created the Auroville Foundation Act in 1988. The scheme of the act is such that three authorities are created: the governing board, the resident assembly, and the International Advisory Council. While all three are called authorities, in fact, the International Advisory Council has only an advisory role. The Auroville Resident Assembly, its main power is to admit people to Auroville, and that also under supervision of the governing board. For the rest, it is meant to organize all the activities of Auroville. It has all the freedom and power to create activities and manage and run them and build the city. But the final powers are still given to the governing board. Since 1988, the governing board and the secretary have played quite a backseat role in the management of Auroville. They have allowed Aurovillians to manage all the various projects of Auroville: the land, the farms, the forests, the industries, the schools, the services. These have all been created as per need and as per the initiative of Aurovillians, with large supports of funds, etc., and goodwill from the government. The government has restricted itself to ensuring that the visa are not disturbed, that everybody has the ability to come to India and participate in this project, that the local land mafias do not interfere much, and Auroville is protected from them as much as possible. The politics of the local villages and the state government, we are also protected from all that by the government. So while the government did not play a major role in the actual internal activities of Auroville, it played a vital role in protecting Auroville from various influences that can kill a project like Auroville, and even now has the potential to kill it. Anyway, with the last governing board, there was a feeling, both amongst many Aurovillians as well as reports that were being received by the government, that not everything is hunky-dory with the project. There was a feeling that the principal objective of the project, which is to build a township, has not been taken forward at all. The lands have not been acquired. The funds have not been raised. The planning groups are very weak. And something needed to be done. And the government decided that with this new governing board and the secretary, it would play a more active role in the management of Auroville. Now this it is well empowered to do under the provisions of the Act. The governing board is always the final authority for all decisions. It is not possible for the government and parliament to just hand over huge amounts of money and property from one set of people to another set of people and let them be the final authority. It has to give the responsibility to officials of the government, appointed by the government, and those who are accountable to the government. And that is the governing board. So the governing board has suddenly stepped into the picture in a way that it had not for the last 20, 25 years. And this has created a change of scene, a shift of emphasis, where a group of Aurovillians who were more or less felt empowered to do what they wanted to do were suddenly being questioned. And this has raised a bit of hue and cry. And that is where we are at now. So one or two Aurovillians were able to get an ex parte injunction without even the Auroville Foundation or other Aurovillians being heard in the matter. And this ex parte injunction now continues for over 2 months. So although all kinds of arguments have been advanced, that injunction which was got without the hearing from the other side is still valid. And that is a very unfair way of dealing with matters. And it is very clear that these people who went to the NGT have neither any locus standi to go there, and that this matter concerns Auroville, and Auroville cannot be represented by just any individual. There is a whole Auroville Foundation that represents Auroville. And this has been a trick played upon Auroville, and we are suffering because of that. It is clear to all of us that we cannot build this township without the support of the government. This is an impossibility, considering that land has to be acquired, funds have to be raised, personnel have to be engaged, professionals have to be engaged, and all obstructions that come in the way of creating the township, whether from local village or within Auroville, needs to be handled properly. And this can only be done by the government. So I am very hopeful that this is a very positive move and should be supported. It is unfortunate that a group of Aurovillians are feeling that the Secretary and the Governing Board are interfering in Auroville's internal matters. This is absolutely a wrong interpretation of things. The way I see it is that the mother has really shifted gear in her project and has now decided to put an emphasis on the building of the township, which was not there for the last 50, 55 years. This is being done now and it cannot be done. There is no way that it can be done without the help and support of the government. And the fact that this support is coming to us, I welcome it and I am with it wholeheartedly.